Okay, okay, guys, a little bit of a introductory guide for the Nordschleife. Starting on the long back straightaway here, where you need absolutely maximum downforce, or minimum downforce, I should say. Garage settings here, running 14 front wing, which is pretty low, and the second highest drivetrain. In an actual race, I'd probably run the highest. My aero balance is 44. You can obviously change that to suit your comfort level. With these long straightaways, you definitely want to run little downforce as possible. And I used to think this was a high downforce track, but it is definitely not. So coming into this section here, I'm just going to go down one gear, get it sort of turned in, and then go down two more. Get turned to the right, and then immediately back to the left. There's no real time gap between the left and right turn there, or the right and left, I should say. As you make this corner here, aim for the inside fence. And then there's a little bit of a blind crest right here. You want to get slowed down right before it. Aim for the inside curb, but do not hit it. Curb's like 9 miles high. It'll kill you if you hit it, as do most of the curbs here. This section here is flat out. Now this section here, gonna brake pretty hard before the left. Go down one gear, down another gear, and then turn right and back on the throttle. Pretty much maintaining throttle all through here. Little blip on the brakes. Little blip on the brakes here. Back on the throttle. Stay on the throttle for here. You have a small straightaway here. Not much, but you want to carry speed through there. Going to slow down before this corner. You don't want to compromise your exit here because you have a very long straightaway coming up. So when you see this right-hander approaching, you want to slow down more for it. Aim towards the curb here, just get a nice steady exit. You want to be full throttle coming off of this left-hander. You can run all the way out to this outside curb here if you want. I didn't make it that far out on this lap, but not a big difference on time there. But the key here is you don't want to be lifting coming off of that exit. This is all flat out. Crest is flat, no lifting through here, just take it flat out. Even with like the minimum wing, I believe it's still 100% flat. This corner here will be flat out as well. And about halfway between the little kink here, right when you come off, there's a patch on the asphalt. About halfway between there and the corner, you're going to get hard on the brakes. Third or fourth gear. I usually do fourth, but third isn't too far off. Aim for the inside curb again. Do not hit it. Curb looks like it's about half as tall as your tire. It'll send you totally out of control. Exit towards the outside here. You want to get a good run off of this corner because it leads onto a very long, fast section. This downhill is all flat, as is the corner at the top when you go to the left. As soon as I make the left, I'm going to get on the brakes and go down a gear. 2 gears actually. And then down another gear and just cruise through here. This big curb over here on the right, an island, you want to try to stay off of that. So I sort of just focus on not hitting any of the curbs through here. If I don't have the perfect line as you're learning the track, not as crucial. You just want to get through there without incident. leads to another long, fast section, so you want to get a good run off of there. This kink is flat, but it is a little deceptive, and if you run wide, like I almost do here, I think I even put 2 tires on the grass there. You want to be very careful not to run wide here. There's a wall at the end that'll get you. So try to stay inside and get down to 4th or 3rd gear. Down to 3rd gear here. Again, another large curb that you don't want to hit. Now, coming into this section, there is, if you're unfamiliar with the Nordschleife, in some of the downforce cars, Lotus 79, Pro Mazda, Renault, there are what we call landmines. There are sort of hidden bumps in the track that will just send the front of the car up into the air. There's one on that really long downhill that we did just a minute ago. On the flat out section running down, there's a bump. Also that flat out left kink right before it, I should have pointed that out. There's one there. There is a bump right up here in the middle of the track. I usually try to stay a little closer to the left, but I want to say it's maybe right out in here. I don't remember exactly where it is, but the key to get around this is to either not hit it once you know exactly where it is, or raise your ride height enough so that you go over it without sending the front of the car airborne. It will literally send you up in the air like you're flying and usually pitch you off of the track into the fence. You're done. Coming into this again section, this is pretty much flat. This can be taken flat depending on your downforce level, but with only 14 wing, I'm coming in here at pretty high speed. Gonna lift a little just to scrub some speed. No brakes, I don't think. Coming into this corner, it's another sort of 2-stage slowdown here. I'm gonna shift down a gear or 2 here, turn in, and then get back on the brakes again. As you can see, I'm hard on the gas, brakes. I turn in, a little bit of throttle to stabilize, and then brakes again. I sort of missed the apex a little here. Actually, no, I think that was a previous lap. That was pretty good. A lot of times you'll get front left wheel lock up there as you go through. Just because of the dip. When I see this little access thing there, right about there, I want to get hard on the brakes, go down to 4th gear, and then immediately turn for this apex. As you'll see, I'm sort of maintenance throttle as I turn in. Careful not to get up on that curb. And then as soon as I get onto this little section here, little blip of the brakes, and then immediately turn. You don't want to straighten it out for long. It's like left and then right. There's not really a straight. The wheel goes pretty much from left to right without any time in between. There's a crest in here. You got to be careful. If you turn too hard to the right, the car gets light with a lot of steering angle and you'll spin. You want to let the car sort of push out here, use more of the track, and not be too hard on the wheel. So I'm letting the car go pretty far out of the left of the track. If you keep it on the right side more, you're more prone to spin. on that little crest. This is flat here. I'll go down into fourth gear, sometimes third here. Now this is a tricky corner just because it's so fast. You come into this, you're going to carry about 100 miles an hour through the corner. But it's crucial to get a good run through there because it leads into this long straightaway. And again, this is all flat. This is really where the minimal downforce helps you. The passing opportunity here if you have lower downforce than the car you're racing with. There's a left kink up here that is flat, even with this low downforce configuration. Take that flat, you'll take the right-hander here flat. And then as you see this left crest, you're going to get ready to get hard on the brakes down into about third gear. Now for one of the trickiest corners in all of iRacing, especially in this car. This lightweight car that's fairly stiffly sprung does not like this corner. When I come up the hill here, I will go into fifth gear usually, even though I don't need it. It's technically a fourth gear straightaway. But I go into fifth because for me personally, that my timing is just better if I go down 2 gears. I find that I get the car settled, and right about this little crest here is when I decide to shift down. And when I do that, I usually land right about where I want in the carousel here. Now, this corner is very tricky. If you go too fast, it'll spit you out into the wall or into the outside line. If you go too slow, you have a tendency to steer in, and you can get up on this island here. If you get up on this, a lot of times you'll end up beached where your rear wheels will not touch the asphalt down here. You can end up having to tow out, and that pretty much ruins your whole race. You can also, on entry, stay to the right, and instead of turning in below, instead of turning in down on the bank section, you can stay wide. Staying wide is definitely safer. Probably a little bit slower, maybe half a second. But you're much more likely to pull that off without incident over race distance for sure. And then as soon as you come out, get hard back on the power. Coming through here, I'm just going to little blip of the brakes to slow down a little, and then down 1 gear. Little blip of the brakes again. This will be flat, and then I go down either a gear or a little blip of the brakes for the left-hander here. As soon as you come out of this left, you want to be getting ready to turn back to the right. It's really easy to track too wide here, as I almost did there, and run off. Go left, and then sort of as you're making this transition, you want to start turning back to the right. Then I'll go down a gear here, and a lot of times I'll do my shift and down a gear fairly early, and then just I'm on throttle again. If you look here, I'm off the brakes and no trail braking, back on throttle before I even turn in. That is just getting the car slowed down to where I need it to be, and then I'm accelerating out of the corner. And I do that a lot here because of the curbs. I don't want to turn in too hard and hit a curb, and I'm using the throttle through the corner to just maintain good rear traction. You go down one gear here, turn in, down another gear at the bottom. Now that time I just hit the brakes. Usually I go down to third here, but you can do third or fourth. But I do hit the brakes here briefly. And then you're going to hit the brakes again. This is one of the few curbs you can actually use here on the left. Going to go down to third. And down to third again here. And on this one, I'm just sort of half throttle. This is a little bit sharper corner than a lot of the ones in this area. And quite a large curb here on the exit. So I sort of just blended the throttle on the way through. And then this is all flat again here. This is flat. The jump here is flat. And as soon as I land, as soon as the car high downforce, you'll kind of stick more, but you really shouldn't be using high downforce here. Medium at the most, like probably low 20s for the wing would be the most I would recommend. Even that's going to be a bit much, but as soon as you land off the jump here, you're going to get on the brakes, down one gear, and turn in. And you'll see just the slightest lift here on the throttle. Now with the low downforce set here, this corner can be a little tricky, and a lot of times I will slide across this exit, which can be a little dangerous. You have to be careful with the oversteer here. I just lift just a little bit to get the front wheels to bite and turn in. And then this here, I'm flat, but a lot of times you will want to lift just prior to this, depending on your car setup and how you feel. That time I took that totally flat. And again, this is all flat here. Going to go down one gear and a fifth, brake slightly, and turn. And this is a very high speed corner, but again, it's tricky just because it's so fast. So I go down one gear, turn in, and a very short little straight here, and you go down another gear. And again, I'm getting sort of coasting and half back on the throttle. Want to accelerate out of that corner. This is leading up to the mini carousel. Probably the second hardest corner on the track. Maybe the hardest. It's definitely up there. So, here, I'll just do it and then I'll show you. Coming into the mini carousel, I want to get slowed down sufficiently. You do not want to take this too fast. Better to slow a little bit more than not. You want to get slowed down enough to get the car into this groove. You're going to aim for the inside curb. Careful not to hit it. But you do need to get slowed down and get the car into this groove. If you carry a couple miles an hour too much, it pitches you off like a jump into the fence there. You just like launch over the top of this little banking here. is almost flat, just a little lift before to get the tires to bite, and this is usually flat. I had to lift there. Maybe I didn't have to, but I felt like I was gonna. And then for the really long straightaway, with the draft, you'll pretty much max out the highest 6th gear here. You're running uphill as well for the early part, so being a low horsepower car, you definitely want minimum amount of downforce. So that's a lap around the Nordschleife. Hopefully that will get some people up the pace a little bit. Again, setup wise, you know, you can almost go as low as you dare. The straightaways are just so long, and the couple of uphill sections are just really penalizing for the medium to high downforce sets. I did learn the track with a high downforce set, like probably 28-ish front wing, and for a while I argued that that was the faster setup. Little did I know how most of the corners really are flat out once you learn the line. And again, like I said, the straightaways are just too many of them and too long to really use too high a downforce here. So you want to use as low as you can and just get a feel for the car around here. That'll get you the best lap times. And I died on that one. I carried too much trail braking through this corner and just lost the rear. Not too bad, would have kept going there, but that was enough to ruin that lap. Anyways, hopefully this helps some people.